What's up guys, RussLyman here, and in today's DIY video I'm going to show you how I made this custom Mortal Kombat themed Nintendo system. Let's check it out. Now I had gotten this request through my Etsy shop. This customer wanted a Mortal Kombat themed Nintendo, and I said yeah, I could definitely do that. Sounds like a fun theme. And definitely with Mortal Kombat you had to put the dragon right on there. This way it screams Mortal Kombat. That's their logo. It's going to be awesome on the Nintendo. So my thought was to design the dragon in Photoshop to get the scaling correct. And then I use Epoxy sculpt. It's this two-part clay that hardens. And I actually printed out the dragon for scaling because I'm not the best at just freelance sculpting a Mortal Kombat dragon. And then I laid some packing tape down over the printed paper, and I was going to put my design right on top of this way I could follow the lines of the printed image, and then it just takes 24 hours for this to cure. So slowly I was just going over with my tools and moving the clay to get over to the points that you can see through the packing tape essentially. This way I got all the curves and crevices in there. Then once that was done, I started applying some details to the NES itself. The kind of theme I was going for was maybe the Outworld, where it's kind of sandy ruins looking. So I was adding like bricks and stone structures to the NES. Maybe it was like an old arena or something towards that effect. So I was adding bits and pieces like that onto the NES with the clay, and then just using an X-Acto blade to sculpt it a little bit more to add the lines for the brick itself or maybe some roughed up areas. Now the Mortal Kombat dragon was actually curling up on the paper, so what I did was just place it where it was going to be on the NES and taped it down so it would stay flat. This way when it dried it would be nice and flat, and again in 24 hours this thing was rock solid. Then just to attach it to the NES, I was just using some 5-minute epoxy. You just mix this together at equal parts and then add some weight. This way it's pressed down on the NES. So what I wanted to do to make this more look like an Outworld arena, I wanted to add some maybe body parts or skulls and weapons. So I used the epoxy sculpt to make skulls, and then I took some G.I. Joes, some old G.I. Joes, and ripped off an arm here or a head so I can put them around the top so it almost looked like warriors that were left in the battle, and kind of sand overgrew the area. I did try to burn some of the figures, get that melted look, maybe Shang Tsung lit them on fire or something like that. I thought it would give a cool effect. And I did make this one guy that was in this pool where it was just half of his body coming out of it. And it looked really cool, but I just had no place for it on top of the NES. And to attach them to the NES, I just used some crazy glue on the bottom of it and put them right on top, and they secured fine. So again, I wanted that kind of gritty look because it was Outworld, maybe sand and stuff like that. So I put down some rubber cement and let it dry, and then I sprinkled actual sand on it to see if it would adhere. I tried that, and I also tried a spray adhesive and let that become tacky. Unfortunately, it didn't stick as well as I liked. Maybe if I lathered on some like hot glue, something thicker of a glue, the sand would have more to bite to. But I just ended up using some stone paint to give it that added texture. And then once that dried, I went back with the final color. I was kind of using different creams and browns and mixing those together and kind of blending it from the bottom up. I was going with a darker color on the bottom and more of that sand tone on the top of the console. Then of course I wanted to say Nintendo across the front of it, but it's got to fit with the theme. So I had put some clay there so I had some room, and I wrote out Nintendo with a pen and went back with my Dremel tool and kind of chipped away at it to spell out the word Nintendo. This way I can go back with some darker paint and it looks like it's carved in stone that says Nintendo. I wasn't going to be able to carve out fully entertainment system because it is so small, so I just did some squiggly lines for that. And then I added a little emblem on the side that says MK for Mortal Kombat. And then again, it's just going back with the paint, kind of blending in some more darker colors to give it some depth. And then of course, you gotta add some blood. So I used different colors of reds and kind of used a flicking technique with the brush to get that splatter. And then I dipped it in some paint and flicked it with my finger up close to kind of get a more closer spread of, I guess, blood or blood splatter. And I used different colors to show kind of like dried blood versus fresh blood, and it kind of came together how I wanted it. And the last step was to paint the dragon. I wanted a nice black paint on the dragon so it pops, and I went back and then added a little bit more of blood splatter over the top of that, and that was pretty much it. It was ready to be clear coated and sealed. So I just took it out to the paint booth and I used Rust-Oleum's Crystal Clear, and I added a few coats of that to protect everything and seal it together, and waiting 10 minutes in between each coat. And once that had time to dry, we had ourselves a finished Mortal Kombat NES. Let's check out the final product. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this build video of the NES. I have a few others that I did on the channel here, so be sure to check those out if you enjoy this type of video. If you guys did want to get something custom from me, be sure to visit my Etsy page. There's a link in the description down below. Consider subscribing if you're not already. And as always, gamers, I'm RussLyman, and keep your world fun bit by bit. I'll see you next video.
And I want to give a super shout out to all my Patreon supporters: Dan Buchanan, Joey Ellis, George Sandoval, Joseph Riviera, Nintendo, Joe Sheevy, David Apuzzo, Maynard, Brian Culpepper, TechWizX, Matthew Hannigan, Alex Kaz, Ayan Oshi, Gannyman, and all my Patreon supporters. Link below if you want to join, and I'll see you later.